Alright guys, now you've had a couple minutes to think about it, let's talk about it. So this is what I came up with. Did you guys come up with a similar equation? Do you have any questions on that? Someone might ask, where'd you get the 1,000 from? What would you say? Doubling it, so 500 doubled, there we go. So, what are going to be my steps here to solve for r? Just shout it out. What should I do first? Awesome, let's divide by 500. Which, if we're doubling it, it makes sense. What is that going to simplify to? Oh, good job. So now I have 2 is equal to 1 plus r over 4 raised to the 40th. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because if we're solving for the exponent, we rewrite it. We want to get rid of that 40th power. What's the opposite of a 40th power? The 40th root, right? So, you've heard of square roots, cube roots. We're going to take the 40th root. Or in other words, raise it to the 1 over 40 power, right? Or 1 over 40. Because remember, square root is 1 over 2. Cube root is 1 over 3. So this will be 1 over 40. Now I'm going to calculate that last. But I have the 40th root of 2 is equal to 1 plus r over 4. Okay, so just a couple more steps here. Kimberly, what are we going to do next? We're trying to solve for r here. We don't need a rewrite on this. R's already kind of there. We just got to solve for it. Yep, we will. But before we do that, there we go. Let's subtract the 1 first. So I get the 40th root of 2 minus 1. That's equal to r over 4. And then we'll go and we'll times everything by 4. And then that will be our answer for r. Okay, now, how do I put that into my calculator? What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to actually write it like this. I'm going to do 4 times the quantity. And instead of writing the 40th root of 2, I'm just going to go 2 raised to the 1 over 40 power minus 1. There is a way you could put in a 40th root, but I think it's easier just to do 1 over 40. So put that in your calculator. Remember, this is going to be a rate. So we're expecting you to get a decimal. What did you get? All right, so Hiram saying you got .068. Do you guys agree with .068? So, in other words, what rate is that? Like about a 7% rate. So if Stephen has about a 7% interest rate, he'll double his money in 10 years, based on compounding quarterly. All right. Do you have questions on this example? Okay, so now what I want to get to is a little activity about how much difference does compounding make. So let's talk about Pablo. Let's say Pablo somehow gets $10,000. I don't know how. Maybe he inherited it. Maybe he won a game show or something. But he's got $10,000, and he's a smart young lad, so he says, I'm going to invest it. Finds a bank account, so if he puts it in there for 20 years, they'll give him 8%. That'd be pretty sweet. So here's what I want to know, is if he lets us, if it's just compounded annually, how much will he have in that bank account 20 years later? How will that change if we do it biannually, which is how many times a year? Quarterly is? Monthly? Weekly? Daily? Hourly? Nobody knows. Okay? And then by the minute. Alright, so now let's go through annually together. We're going to do annually together, and then I'm going to split you up. And we're going to figure out how much of a difference this compounding will make. So if it's just annually, we do 10,000 1 plus our rate, which is 0.08, and we're going to raise that to the 20th power. Right? This was our first formula where we're not compounding except at the end of the year. So it was an easy formula, and you guys plug that in. Once someone has it, just shout out, what did they get here? What? 609. Okay, do you see why Pablo is a wise young man? Is that what you guys, we got a confirmation there? Okay, he more than quadrupled that in 20 years. Now, that's cool, but how much more money is he going to make if he compounds it more than once a year? So here's what I'm going to say. You three right here in this row, you are going to go through and use a formula to figure out what it is compounded twice per year. You guys are going to be 4 times a year. You guys here are going to be 12 times a year. You guys here are going to be 52 times a year, so you're daily. I want you guys to figure out what it would be by hourly. Because we're trying to learn here, that's why. And then the rest of you four, you're going to do by the minute. It is harder, you're right, but it'll be even better. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about it.